Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
Oh, thank goodness the camera works. This terrible realization. It's like, I didn't test the camera. And Tuesday, the camera was not behaving, so I don't have a whole lot of trust in the camera. Why would you go to Idaho? You're living in your own private Idaho, living in my own private Idaho. Underground like a potato. I'm living in my own private Idaho. Get under the ground. Say hello to Napoleon Dynamite. We're out there. Jeez. Yeah. Hey, family. How's everybody doing? We are family at Malcontent News. We're going to go ahead and let the audience build. Question of the day is in the scroller down below. It's another pillow talk as we're on the road in California, so we're doing things informal. I know there's some people, you should have dragged all of your stuff and set up a studio in that hotel room you're in. The reality is, the room that I'm in is actually big enough that I actually, if I had moved the coffee table and maybe a couple other things, I actually probably could have set up a studio in here. The last time I was here, the room I had was nowhere near as big as this one. The room I'm in is really big. I don't like the room where it's located on this property. And there's a long story, and I guess for OPSEC, I'm not going to get into the specific property that I'm in. I got a lot to talk about. We're learning a lot more about Delta. In some ways, I feel what we're learning about the Delta variant, this feels like April and May of 2020, in the sense that we're having this, oh my God, we're learning more, and shit, no, make it stop, please. Yesterday, I talked about a couple of people that I witnessed at where my mom lives, bypassing the. Sorry, I have this huge squishy thing of pillows, and I'm a little bit struggling, if you can't tell, to kind of get comfortable, which is really bizarre. I'm on a pile of 4 pillows. Should be able to get comfortable like that. If you're not familiar with Pillow Talk, I used to do Pillow Talk a lot last year. This time last year, we did a lot of Pillow Talks. Pillow Talk was kind of therapy for me after sucking in pepper spray and flashbang grenades echoing in my vibrating in my brain skull cells and stuff. And seeing generally people being awful to each other. And I kind of look back in hindsight and I'm like, wow, pillow talks with therapy. It's not a therapy session. It's just a lot of people like the pillow talks. It's weird to me. Because the production value is like zero. I mean, yeah, I'm using a decent camera and I got some good light, and I've at least made sure the background, right? You don't see like my suitcase and a pile of dirty laundry because I'm like in day 6 now with this trip. You don't see the pile of dirty laundry that's sitting on the coffee table over there. Spacey Gracie, oh my God, we haven't seen you in forever. Big shout out to Spacey Gracie. Lori, holy, wow. There's some names we haven't seen in forever. See, like the pillow talks bring the old school malcontents out. It's really weird. And I know for other people, who's this asshole? Just friggin', they're in bed and they're like John Lennon and they're ranting. Okay, so here's the thing today. My mother's med tech today is not vaccinated, is anti-vax, is quite vocal about their anti-vax status. They do wear a mask. I'm sure they resent having to wear a mask. I shouldn't say I'm sure. That's unfair of me. I will speculate that they resent having to wear a mask. They believe that the COVID vaccine is it's full of things to kill people. They're in the depopulation camp. I'm not pleased that this person is working among a very vulnerable population. I am not pleased that this person is espousing their opinions that are not steeped in any medical fact whatsoever to same said population. Now, this is where people are going to go, this is where it gets hard to be kind of on the political left, right? Because the other side of the coin, there's part of me that goes, well, I don't want to be Chad. I don't want to be a male Karen. I want to talk to a manager, even though it's like, this is so Gen X, right? If I was a boomer, if I was 10 years older, I guarantee you, right? I want to talk to a manager. But I'm not. I'm Gen X, and we were told to just sit down, shut up, and suffer in silence. So I think at the end of the day, I embrace my inner Gen X, and it's like, as much as I would have verbally spar with you, as much as I want you to be my little fly in the jar. I want to say things and hoist you on your own petard, but I behaved, and I didn't complain. However, when I was checking out, because at the station for the contact tracing you have to go through when you go in and out, and your temperature check station, yada, you don't temperature check on the way out but going in, there was a person who was of boomer age, and she wanted to talk to a manager, and I could hear her in the office. And she has a family member is there, and apparently the med tech is that same med tech is worth there, and they were very unhappy about this. So in some ways, bravo. But what the management or whoever there, it's a family run place, so I don't know if it's a family member or not, but basically what they said is that they are working on the mandate that everybody who works there has to be vaxxed. So, and of course, we're seeing more and more places that are doing this now. Oh, Melissa, that's so amazing. Happy hours, I love that. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to swap the sides of the screen that things are on. So this way I can read your comments and actually look more like I'm looking into the camera. I'm having to look off. You're still going to see me kind of looking down at your comments, but this at least, actually, you know what? I can do this too. Ha ha ha, technology. Okay, I can't do this. That makes things bad. Forget that haha. I wore 2 masks on the plane. You didn't die of carbon monoxide? Oh, Jesus Christ. I can't count how many friggin'... You're getting carbon monoxide from wearing a mask. human beings don't create carbon monoxide. We exhale carbon dioxide. And if I follow your logic, then every medical professional that has been treating COVID patients should have dropped dead months ago. Well, they don't wear masks. Really, you've never been in a hospital. Or I get there's probably some Americans who've never been in a doctor's office in their life because we have a really screwed up medical system here. I wish I was back home in Canada. Can we be refugees? Although I'm seeing like you have anti-vax and you got Proud Boys and you got racism, you've got genocide. I don't know. Canada's not looking. Basically, the only thing right now that makes Canada look attractive is you've got health care. At least you can get friggin' health care. We're desperate for sane human connection. That's so friggin' true. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Wow, there's a lot of people on tonight for a late show. And a lot of old names I haven't seen in a long time. Friggin' Emily, how are you? Great to see you on. There's a ton of names I haven't seen in a long time up here. Thank you so much for joining. Let's talk about Delta and what have we learned in the last 48 hours. First of all, I'm a pretty big fan of Nate Silver. Yeah, I get it. He really screwed up the 2016 election predictions. He did pretty solid in the 2020 predictions, contrary to what anybody in the right may say. He was basically within the markers in his predictions of what was going to happen. By the way, we almost nailed the election in our prediction. We only got Arizona wrong. We got everything else. That and we flipped the one electoral votes from Nebraska and Maine. I thought Biden was going to sweep Maine. He didn't. He got 3 out of 1, and I didn't think he was going to pick up the one in Nebraska, and he did. So we flipped those. Anyway, neither here nor there. But if you go back to our November, I think it's November 1st, our final prediction, yeah, nothing but net. So I'm an evil mastermind, Mike Lindell. I controlled it all with my Jewish brain and powers. Let's talk about Delta. It's not good. That's why I'm kind of stalling. It's really bad. Today, why did I get into Nate Silver? Nate Silver put a tweet out today that was basically slagged out the CDC, saying, well, the CDC is not explaining why we're going back to masks and how can we trust the CDC. And I actually replied on his tweet going, the CDC has released the information, and here it is on ABC News, by the way. And here's the really, dude, Nate, 538 was bought by ABC News. Nate, really? It was on ABC News, Nate. And I like you, dude, but, bro, dropped the ball on this one. So this is what happened. Remember yesterday, if you watched yesterday, there's a ton of names here. So there's a bunch of y'all did watch yesterday. I know some of you on here do. I'm not slagging you out, but I'm just seeing a lot of old school names that got me excited. We talked yesterday about the super spreader event that happened in Provincetown, Massachusetts on the 4th of July. I can't candy coat this. Numbers are numbers. Facts are facts. And I know the comments are going to blow up when I drop these facts on you. There's now 882 confirmed infections from the super spreader event, Delta, it's all Delta, that happened from the 4th of July celebration in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Provincetown, Massachusetts is, it has a reputation of being like a gay community. It's Fire Island. It's, it's Jason Greenwich Village. It's what Capitol Hill was, say, 25 years ago. This is a very well-known thing, and there's been some gentrification, but it's really kind of held on to that. Of those 882, 74% were fully vaccinated. 74% were fully vaccinated, and they got Delta. And it gets worse. Most of those 882 people are symptomatic. Now, The data that was released did not get into this percentage who were not vaccinated or symptomatic versus this percentage who were vaccinated. 7 people hospitalized. So if you think about it, 882, 7 people hospitalized, right? You're looking at like a 1% hospitalization rate. So that's good. What we don't know is, are the 7 people hospitalized who were unvaccinated or partially vaccinated? They had their first shot and either decided I don't want to get the second shot. Millions of people have done that. They don't want to go through the hump to get that second dose. Or did they get their first shot and they were in between, right? They were in that 2 to 4 week, depending on which vaccine you're getting, before they can get the second and final dose. We don't have that data. We do know over 90% of people who are hospitalized are not vaccinated, and we have that data point. But the conclusion that the CDC reached was that Delta's just kind of mowing through the vaccination in the sense of being preventative. There is very strong evidence still that you do not get, because Delta also makes you sicker than the original strain and then the Alpha strain, the UK strain. We know this too. If you're unvaccinated, Delta makes you much sicker. We know that from India. We know that from what we're seeing here in the United States. If you are vaccinated, it's making people sick. And this is why the CDC the masks have to go back on whether you're vaccinated or not. Multiple companies are right now looking, is it a booster? Do we have to create a dedicated Delta version of the vaccination or not? So that's the first bit of bad news. Here's the next bit of wonderful that's come out. This news has come out of Israel. It's a small study. When we say long haul COVID, they're only looking at 6 weeks. So people that are still experiencing some degree of disability or illness. And what they're finding is, vaxxed or not, 19% of people that are getting Delta, almost 1 out of 5, 6 weeks later are still sick to some degree. They are experiencing long hauler symptoms. So this is why the CDC has recommended that masks go back on. The federal government, contrary to what Trump supporters were trying to scare you, we're going to scare you. You must vote for the overlord because the other overlords are coming. The federal government cannot mandate masks. They have no legislative power, because of the way the U.S. Constitution is written, to do that. Anybody who's telling you that has... Tell us you don't understand the Constitution and the balance of power without saying you don't understand the Constitution and balance of power. You go first. The federal government has no capacity to do a federal mask mandate. Now, the federal government does have the capacity to mandate masks in areas that the federal government controls. Key areas of public transportation is an example. Federal prison system is another example. Hospitals that receive Medicaid funding receive federal dollars to keep their doors open as another example. Federal buildings, including military bases, as another example. These are places where the federal government has jurisdiction because these are federally regulated or controlled or part of the federal government facilities. However, the federal government can't go to Wyoming and say, Wyoming, you must make everybody wear a mask because we're the federal government and we're ordering it. Nope, they can't do that. Contrary to what anybody might be telling you somewhere deep on a Q website. By the way, whoever connected us to the Q website, the traffic's way down again. You need to connect a couple of more stories, okay? Because the traffic's gone down. We were really liking all of the traffic, and most of the Q people that were going to our website were actually really well behaved. So send more Q followers to Malcontent News, please. We would really appreciate it because it helps with the Google algorithm. Oh my God, Carrie's in the house. Carrie's in the house. Look at all these old school malcontents. This is great. States can mandate them, federal government can't. Exactly. And we've seen that, and the courts have gone through it, and it's established, and blah, blah, blah at this point. The bottom line is this: Delta's a big shit sandwich, and we're all about ready to take a bite out of it. This is because of the spread necks. Antiva, yes, I said spread necks. Instead of redneck, spread necks. I know, it's not a joke when you have to explain the joke. If you like it, you can start using it. It's because of the spread necks. It's because of Antiva. It's because, you know, Mitch McConnell today. Did you hear what Mitch McConnell had to say today? I got to do my Mitch McConnell imitation again. I need some like mashed potatoes to put in my mouth to do it right. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to convince people to go ahead and that they need to have to take the vaccine. Well, Mitch, your party leadership, and the news organizations that you suck up to have only been in a 15-month misinformation campaign about the vaccine. Mitch McConnell, there's nothing altruistic about what Mitch McConnell's one of these guys where it's just like, you know he's evil, you know he's a monster, you know he's like the friggin' senator from the movie Sin City, with the really creepy child molesting son, right? You know he's like that friggin' senator that Powers Booth played, only with a turtleneck. Just this evil, awful guy, but they do shit, and you're just like, damn it. I can't find anything to hate about this, but I know there's something sinister that he's doing behind here. I know it, because he doesn't do anything without an agenda. Nothing. Mitch McConnell, if you're going to be a little shocked about this, is running an ad campaign on 100 radio stations in Kentucky, in his home state of Kentucky. He is using his own campaign money to run the spots. The spots are nonpartisan. So in other words, there's no campaign pitch, there's no election pitch. There is no, this law was brought to you by the Republican Party and Mitch McConnell. He's running ads out of his own pocket, essentially. I mean, out of his donors' pockets. Let's go ahead and be accurate of that. At 100 radio stations in Kentucky, appealing to people to get vaccinated, which, of course, as you know, is just not going to be a popular message in Kentucky. And the message that Mitch McConnell is using in this is like, look, I had polio growing up. I saw what polio did. And I saw the miracle of vaccines for polio. And the fact that we have 3 effective and safe vaccines in the span of a year in the United States is nothing short of a modern miracle. And please go out and get vaxxed. Now, I'm not typing well tonight. If you want to be cynical, it comes down to, oh my God, we're killing off our voter base 2022, in these purple counties. Because if you think about these purple counties, if you're killing off your voter base at, say, a 90 to 10 ratio, so in other words, for every 90 in the pocket Republican voters, you're killing, say, 10 independents or Democratic voters, which, if we look at the numbers of the hospitalizations and the fatalities, that's not a far off, right, to throw that dart. And then you start looking at some of these states and counties where the votes just came down to hundreds or a few thousand. Start doing the math, right? So I don't know if this is 2022 political strategists are going, we're going to get killed in the midterms because we're killing off our voter base, or is it about the money? Is it about that the economies in these red states that are very low vaccinated are going to collapse? And then you got Florida. And Florida is just its own special, Florida. And we have that. So anyway, malcontents, if you've been on the fence and wearing a mask, I'm vaxxed. It's not the vax don't work, right? The flu vaccine is a great example of this. The flu vaccine for a lot of people doesn't prevent you from getting the flu, but the flu vaccine turns the flu into, I feel like crap for a few days, versus if you've ever had full scale influenza, like really full scale influenza, unvaxxed, it sucks. I've had it twice. It it sucks. When you get it hard, holy crap. So the difference is kind of like a cold on steroids versus doctors in a room somewhere having a conversation whether to admit you to the hospital or not. That's the difference that a flu vaccine can make. And right now, I think that's how you're going to have to view the COVID vaccine. The other challenge is the R0, the transmissibility factor for Delta is much higher than the original strain, much higher than the Alpha strain. The R0, like we talked about that yesterday, is 3.5 to 4.0. That's high. That's like getting into mumps territory. High. Mumps is pretty damn contagious. It's back to wearing a mask. I we're we're back to like September. Like, and the reason we're back to September, we're almost kind of like, if you remember last summer, this time cases were going down. We just kind of started that summer spike right around this time. And we were all kind of wearing our masks. But if you think, like, if you look at some of the early videos from protests that were going on in Seattle in May, and just, right at the very, very beginning, the first few days in June, tons of people aren't wearing masks because the full-on mask mandate, the oh my God, you need to wear a mask was going on. You had people who were wearing masks who were concerned about COVID and were like, I don't care, I'm not waiting to be told hi. I was one of those people. We were advocating. There's a ton of old school malcontents on right now. Do you remember back in March when we put up the University of Nebraska study that said it was aerosolized, and we prefaced that it wasn't peer reviewed? And we had a couple of experts come on the show that actually had doctor next to their name, including Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent, and we talked about how the behavior of what was going on certainly looked like it was aerosolized, and I was getting roasted. You remember us getting roasted? Roasted for, oh yeah, it's aerosolized. Unlike flu. Wow, we're talking about rugby. Um, Melissa, same thing. I got it in my 20s. Holy shit, it was horrible. It was friggin' horrible when I got in my 20s. Wear a mask. That's the bottom line. Wear a mask, please. Please wear a mask. And if you're not vaccinated, if you have someone in your circle that's not vaccinated, and you can at least have somewhat of a constructive conversation with this person, then you're not going to, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You're not going to be able to beat them over the head to make this happen. The way you do it is gentle conversations, and try to have those conversations. And expect, and if you're in the look, if you're in the BIPOC, and I'm going to step out of my lane. I am going to, because I tell you, I've been doing this 4 years. I actually went back. I've looked at some old posts, and I'm like, wow, I was doing social justice stuff all the way back to 2015. I just didn't realize how much I was doing at the time. And I'm going to totally step out of my lane. And I want to talk to the BIPOC community. If you're Black, Pacific Islander, Indigenous in particular, as a student of history, I am very, very much aware of the conduct and the actions of my government against your populations. I am completely aware of the genocide to the indigenous populations and the use of essentially biological weapons against the indigenous population, and done in a very purposeful manner. For Pacific Islanders, I wrote my high school graduate, and I get it's high school, but I literally wrote my high school graduation paper on the atomic vets and open air nuclear bomb testing. I am painfully aware of what happened to Pacific Islanders during the open air nuclear test phases of the US government, and the suffering that continues today, and the lies that those populations were told in the name of national security. The black populations, I am very, very much aware of the Tuskegee Airmen, of non-consent sterilizations, of other medical experimentation going back to the slave era. I am modern gynecology is on the back of torture of slave women, and this continues today in hospitals with the complete false belief that black people experience pain differently than other races, and hence don't need as much pain medication or don't need pain medication at all because they don't feel pain, which is complete bullshit. I really understand these things. And I also understand that there are people who are intentionally spreading misinformation. That, for instance, that Bill and Melinda Gates said that they wanted to treat the black and indigenous populations in this country first, to experiment, to make sure that things were safe, and then move it on to the vulnerable population. And that is completely untrue. They never said that, ever. They never even implied it. Bill Gates is on the record over and over and over again that the medical community needed to get it first. And then the most vulnerable community, the elderly, and then the poor and the minority populations, because the poor and minority populations historically have been at the back of the line of effective medications. As an ally, believe me, I get it, I'm a pasty white guy. As an ally, I'm appealing to you. The vaccine is safe. I've got the vaccine. I'm not magnetic. I was snipped. I'm going to assume I'm not sterile. I still got venom in the guy, I'll tell you that. I know people are just like, gross, didn't want to know that. I'm not magnetic. My Wi-Fi hasn't got any better. I'm cis. I'm still cis. I'm going to be cis forever. My health is fine. I've had it for months. There's people now who've had it for a year. Don't buy the misinformation. It's holding your populations back. And there are people who are using your history and fears, which I am not invalidating, but they are using your history and fears against you. And I will point to First Nations, like the Navajo, like the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, Rosebud, Arapaho, who prioritized, and also the Cherokee, who prioritized, had their hands in the air. We want to get vaccinated, and we want to vaccinate our elders, and we want to vaccinate the people that remember the old ways and still speak our language, because if they die, then with them our culture dies, and our culture is dying as we're fighting against it still in 2021. We did stories on it. You could do a Google search. Please get vaccinated. It's free. In King County, they'll come pick you up and take you to a location. You need childcare? They provide childcare for it. For the second dose, who's going to take care? I'm a single mom. If I'm laid up in bed for a day or two, they will help you. King County has programs for this. Please. And with that, I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to come back into my lane. Don't listen to the spreadnecks. Joe Biden's going to let the eviction moratorium end. It ends on Sunday. And there's going to be a bunch of people running to court on Monday to evict a bunch of Americans from their homes and start moving on foreclosure actions on a lot of mortgage holders. Um, and I know that there are people that will probably hear this bit of news and go, "There's the collapse in the economy." No, this isn't going to help anything. Who's going to get hurt here is middle class Americans. Large corporate investors, they're not going to feel the pinch on this at all. Not one bit. And I know that we wrote a story about this. It's probably the most research story that I have written beyond Can You Hear Us documentary. Um, I'm kind of looking, just reading some of your comments here. My friend in California went to Mexico to get vaccinated because she made too much money to qualify for the vax first. Something about unemployment running out and had it in order to work. That sounds weird to me because there is no prioritization on income that I'm aware of anywhere. But whatever, as long as they got it, um, that's great. Um, the rent situation here and the more, you got to understand this. We have a housing shortage. We're getting ready to throw hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Americans onto the street. Now, I know some people are going to go, but now that frees up to rent to other people. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. See, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have people who are going to get an eviction notice. Now, some people are going to fight those evictions. Some people are just going to hang their heads, right? Some people are going to hold out for cash for keys, etc. You're going to have some other people that are going to hang their heads and say, fine, I need to find somewhere else to live. So those people are going to be applying for rent at other locations. But what's going to be on their credit report? That they have an eviction and they're not going to be able to rent. So if you're renting a property and you're haven't had someone paying rent, which is a problem, particularly if you're a small landlord, right? If you're a small landlord, you own 1, 2, 3, 4 properties. We interviewed a guy, right, in that story we did in December, who's just being destroyed. He bought a fourplex and he bought it to live in one and have people in the other three, and this was his retirement. He wanted to retire. That was it. Um, and this guy's probably going to be homeless in 60 days now, or 90 days, or however long it takes to foreclose him out. Now that and well, actually it won't be because Washington goes to the end of September, but whenever it ends here in Washington, he's done. It's out. And here's the other thing. Whoever buys that property, they're not going to roll the tenants over. They're going to kick everybody out. He has a tenant in there who is paying right now. He's one. The other two weren't. Um, they'll throw that tenant out. And that tenant in that story is only paying $800 a month. Where the fuck in Puget Sound are they going to rent something for $800 a month? Where? They're not. They're going to be homeless. So you got renters who are going to have evictions looking to rent somewhere else, and they're not going to be able to because of an eviction on their background. So all you're just going to be doing is like moving the chairs around on the Titanic. Now, for the big corporations, the big corporate property owners, they'll just take the loss. They're just going to take the write-off. They can take the write-off. And they'll take the loss on the books. It'll hurt. The bonuses will be a little bit smaller for the board and the C-suite. Maybe. Probably what they'll actually do is just lay off some office staff because we've had a lot of foreclosures and revenue is down, and give themselves bigger bonuses to pat themselves on the back on how well they navigated the financial crisis, because that's how we roll here in America. Yes, and the big corporations got a bunch of COVID assistance because remember, if you're a small mom and pop landlord, right, you literally just own 1, 2, 3, 4 units. That's how I'm defining a small landlord. You don't get COVID assistance for passive income. That's passive income. There's nothing. There's no PUA, PUC. There's nothing. They got nothing. So if you're in this position, There are people who have renters, but right, in a small property, but they have a mortgage. And that mortgage has been in forbearance because they can't pay the mortgage because the renters haven't been paying the rent. So now they can kick the renters out just at the same time that the forbearance is going to end and the bank's going to go, money's due. Now, some banks, what they've simply done with the forbearance, if they've just been punting it and moving it to the back end. That's what banks that have a degree of compassion should be doing. But not all banks are doing that. All banks, other banks, like, oh no, now the payments are going to double up. You got to pay double mortgage payments for the next 12 months to go ahead and catch up. You've had your year, you got to play catch up now. These people are going to lose their properties. But there is trillions with a T, trillions in cash on the sidelines to just buy them up. From institutional investors like BlackRock, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and they're just going to come in and buy these properties. They're not buying them to resell them. They are buying them to turn them into rentals and control the rental market. And that's what's going to happen. So starting on Monday, one of the largest transfers of wealth in U.S. history, that's what's going to be starting. I know, it's just terrible. Oh my God, 150 square, that's a prison cell. 150 square feet. I know. Serfdom. We're going back to serfdom. This is different than 2008 because, see, the thing is, the prices aren't going to collapse because all this cash is on the sidelines. What happened in 2008 is the credit markets froze up. You could have known Jesus on a first name basis, played racquetball with him on the weekend, and you couldn't get a loan. Right? Big corporations couldn't get loans. Rich billionaires couldn't get loans. Nobody could get a friggin' loan. Right? The credit cards you had in your wallet, if you had a 740 credit score, you got to hold on to those credit cards. Otherwise, banks started friggin' canceling on your ass. And then some of them because banks were shutting down. Right? WAMU in Washington State. WAMU shut down. They sold their credit, they got chopped up into little pieces. Some of their credit cards, like WAMU bought Providian, and then WAMU went to Chase, I think, and then Chase like shut down a ton of the credit cards, and lines of credit and all in the WAMU portfolio. We're not going to have this. We're not going to have this where the markets are frozen and there is no capital to prop up the prices. There's so much capital, and they're just going to come in. They're just waiting. They have been waiting to come in. The prices are going to keep going like this. The rents are going to keep going like this. And we are going to see a homelessness crisis in this country. You think it's bad now? Give it 12 to 18 months. Give it 12 to 18 months, and holy shit, where we're going to be at. And it's not just going to be blue Democrat-run cities. It's going to be everywhere. Bidenvilles, yeah. And it's not just Biden. I mean, this call them Reaganvilles as far as I'm concerned. So we have that. I want to talk about Steve Hirjak. Interesting situation with Captain Steve Hirjak of the Seattle Police Department. If you're not familiar with the name Steve Hirjak, here's the story. OPA did an investigation for a year into the Pink Umbrella riot. Who caused it? Who was the person? Right? Was there excessive force? And if there was, who gave the order? And what the OPA concluded was there was ridiculous excessive force on June 1st. That essentially the Pink Umbrella riot is completely the fault of the Seattle Police Department. And also that the Pink Umbrella riot of June 1 continued to was the big escalation that essentially gave us Chaz and Chop and the sweep on July 1 and then the summer that we had, the incidents on July 2, July 4, July 25. 816, 91, 96, 914. Oh man, it's like we're in prime time. Let's walk down trauma memory lane, shall we? Time right now. Um, and what they concluded, the OPA, is that it was Lieutenant Brooks. That Lieutenant Brooks was the one who said, throw the hammer down on June 1. And that Lieutenant Brooks caused the Pink Umbrella riot. And Chief Diaz said, nope, I'm not going to punish Lieutenant Brooks because he was only following orders. And then what Chief Diaz said is that Steve Hirjak, at that time Assistant Police Chief Steve Hirjak, was the one who gave the order for Lieutenant Brooks to respond in this way. And the Seattle Police Department said that Steve Hirjak was the incident commander from May into June 2nd and then was yanked off of that and replaced with an unknown individual. At least it's known, but I have not in my research seen who the person then became, boots on the ground. I would say speculatory from just what I saw, it sure looks like it was Brooks because Brooks was friggin' everywhere, as everybody knows, that summer. If there was a protest, the only people working harder than a handful of streamers like yours truly was like friggin' Lieutenant Brooks. It's like, oh my God. And Matthew, right? Matthew, the Bible thumping dude. Like, these were the hardest working, and of course, some of the key protest organizers. We don't use the word leaders. It's like this core of like 100 people who were everywhere. And Lieutenant Brooks is definitely one of these core of 100 people who was everywhere. So on the surface, it looks like it was Lieutenant Brooks calling the shots. Steve Hirjak is suing the city of Seattle $5.6 million in change. And what he is claiming is his demotion was racial discrimination. It was not steeped in fact. He wrote, I haven't read the 11 page. I did read Como's language that they used, like strongly worded, powerfully worded, something on the lines of like that 11 page, into the courts around this lawsuit. And the other thing that he is alleging, shocked, I tell you, shocked, is that there's a lot of racism in the Seattle Police Department that he has had to deal with in silence as he has climbed the ladder, and that essentially the only reason he was able to climb the ladder and get to it is by sucking it up, Buttercup, and dealing with a lot of racist BS within the department. Now, of course, all of this palace intrigue is very interesting. And it also once again shows to me how the Seattle Police Officers Guild and the union contract that the city signed gives the Seattle Police Department far too much power and almost no oversight, real oversight in what the Seattle Police Department does. There are other cities who have wrestled with this, and there are only 2 cities in the country right now where that some real reform or the people that really effed up have been identified at this point, and those 2 cities are Seattle and Portland, right? Ted Wheeler also heads the PBB, so you have the mayor heading the PBB over there, the Portland Police Bureau. That makes friggin' sense in some ridiculous Rick and Morty alternative universe. And here in Seattle, we have a police department that has about as much transparency as a foot of lead, and enables about as much oversight as mafia bosses during the Prohibition era, which is to say, like, none. And this is the situation we have. And of course, you have Steve Hirjak, who doesn't cut a sympathetic image here, right? Because if he is the higher up, and he had his hands in what happened on May 29, May 30, May 31, June 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then it's like, dude, it's really gross because there is a mountain of evidence that has come out in, years long investigations, as well as analysis done by, journalists and documentarians, that the explosion that happened here, metaphorical explosion that happened after May 30, really is at the feet of the Seattle Police Department. It's pretty darn undeniable. And of course, anybody who is out on the street, certainly if you were in the protest community, Lieutenant Brooks carves none of any image of sympathy here. But it is here's the thing: Chief Diaz is his Latinx, right? I mean, he is part of the BIPOC community. And then we have this other thing. Let's not forget that we had Carmen Best, a black female chief of police, undermined by her own commanders over the evacuation of the East Precinct. It's like Game of Thrones that's going on. And all we get is little bits and pieces of the information. Now, of course, here's the interesting thing. What do I think is going to happen with Steve Hirjak? What I think is going to happen is this, because he did get a pay cut. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, and he didn't even get a pay cut. He did. He got a pay cut. I think he got hit about 30 grand a year. He took a more than a 10% hit in his pay with the demotion. And with that demotion, it's going to hurt his pension. It doesn't look on his record, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I think is ultimately going to happen. I think Hirjak will get a settlement out of court. I think they're going to write him some kind of check. He will get promoted back as part of his ability to retire, and he will get his retirement at that higher rate. And I think Lieutenant Brooks is going to walk away from all of this unscathed. And that's what I think is going to happen. And I think at the end of the day that nobody will be held accountable for what happened on June 1st. Seattle Police Department, right, has bled out almost 300 police officers. We have Jenny Durkin today, kind of like, whoa, we need police officers. And, of course, the right, I saw the Fox News story headline today, the right is having a field day over this. But the reality is these police officers leaving police departments are happening all across the United States. This isn't a unique Seattle thing, right? Burien is losing 30% of their police officers, a third of their force right now. Snohomish County has had a problem with recruiting for years and years because Snohomish County Sheriff pays notoriously low, and they're kind of ill-equipped and they're ill-trained. And the Snohomish County Sheriff's Department has had a really crappy reputation. I believe, I think it's Lake Forest Park. They have a very small force, like 6 or 7 police officers. They're like down to 2. This is Woodinville, which contracts out. They're down because King County is down. This isn't an issue that is unique to Seattle. This is a national issue. The dynamics of what's happening in Seattle are different from other jurisdictions. In a lot of jurisdictions, what's happening is that police officers are paid shit. And they get shit for training, and the bar for them to get hired is shit. And they have to put up with a lot of shit, and they don't want to deal with the shit. And so they're just getting out. This is the same story across the country. Look what's happening in the medical community with the nurses and the pay cuts that the University of Washington medical system wants to do just after all these nurses have been through living hell. Oh, and let's not forget, they're getting ready to go through living hell right now. Like, right friggin' now. And I know people in the medical community outside of Harborview, outside of you, that they're quitting. They're like, this is my last week. I'm done. There are a ton of people, respiratory specialists, nursing, doctors, who are looking what's going on with the 4th wave, and they're like, nope, Nope, I'm not doing this again. I'm not. I'm out. It's a big problem. We're not paying people enough. And we have people who are making obscene amounts of money telling people like you and me, like, it's all because those people want to make more money. That's what all your problem is. If we just pay people less, things will be better. As long as I continue to make more. Wake up. Wake the fuck up. Yeah, exactly. We called them heroes. Well, shoot, look at our medical community. Forget heroes, forget essentials. We're now calling them monsters. We got 40% of the country that thinks that our medical community is out to kill them, literally. Who to believe this QAnon on the subject of QAnon thing, where is it? Where is it? Do I not have it here? Oh man, I wanted to hold it. It's on our page. It's just like this ridiculous thing on the shower about the Q shower. I'm like, oh, this hasn't aged well. They need to friggin' change their thing. Next thing I want to talk about is weather. We'll talk about weather. We got this is hyper local forecast for Kirkland, Bellevue, and Woodinville. Flash. We got a little mini heat wave. I know it was like in the high 80s there today. There's a little mini heat wave, like super mini. Be like 90 tomorrow. Which 90 would normally be like, oh my God, it's going to be 90. But now that Seattle's been to 108 and we've had 3 100 plus degree days in a row, it's going to be 90. 90. We can handle 90. We handled 108 without air conditioning. In Kirkland, we handled 112. Maple Valley handled 118. Take that, Las Vegas, where you have air conditioning. Yeah. And then I saw the videos of people in like Phoenix and Las Vegas, like Phoenix, not the current heat dome that's hitting, but the prior one. Phoenix had like some really big power outages, and I saw some TikTok videos of people who were like in their homes where the power's out and it's 115 degrees outside, and they're making mea culpa TikTok videos like, I am so sorry, Seattle. I didn't know it was this bad without air conditioning. I think I'm gonna die now. I'm really, really sorry. Like, holy shit, this sucks. So, 3 things happening in weather. Number 1, tomorrow, 90 degrees, cooler on Saturday, cooler on Sunday. Saturday may feel warmer than Friday, even though it's going to be cooler because the humidity is going to go up on Saturday, on Sunday. The other thing that's happening is this little edge of heat dome that's getting into Western Washington. We're not getting the full heat dome treatment like we got in June, that we're getting an edge of it. Yeah, Cliff, we're probably not getting another heat dome thing. Yeah, that blog post hasn't aged well, Cliff. I'm just saying. On the heat dome, it's going to give us an offshore flow. We're going to get some wind coming off of the Cascades. That's part of what's going to cause the warm up. But here's the other thing. It's going to pull in some smoke. I'm not seeing anything in the smoky models that's showing anything remotely close to last year. So that's the second thing we have coming up. We talked about we're going to have a little mini heat wave tomorrow. It's going to feel hotter on Saturday, but it won't be as hot. And then we're going to probably have a little smoke come in. Nothing bad. It is going to be lower level. You probably might, you're going to see some spectacular sunsets. You're going to see some haze. Think of it like that. If you're super, 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 super sensitive, you got a lot of breathing issues and stuff. Make extra sure you got your inhaler in your pocket with you and stuff. That's kind of where we're at. If you're generally in good health, you don't have a lot of lung issues. You're going to taste it. You're not going to find ash on your cars. It's not anything like that. Not anything like last year. But we're going to get a little smoke. Maybe. We're at day 45 with no rain. 4th longest streak in Seattle history. We're getting really close to actually getting to the number 2 streak. We're going to make day 46 tomorrow. There's no rain in the forecast. Saturday, that'll be day 47. Now we get to Sunday. Remember, I said there's going to be some humidity going on? And then that heat dome is going to get pushed to the east. There's going to be a little bit of a wave off the coast. That's what's kind of pulling some of that moisture up. And there is a chance, because what's going to happen is thunderstorms are going to start bubbling up in showers along the Cascade Crest. Sometimes when you get the thunderstorms on the western side of the Cascades, they drift westward. If one were to drift all the way west to SeaTac, it's like that much of a chance. It's like that much. But I'm crushing my eyeball. I'm crushing my eyeballs. I'm crushing my eyeballs. I'm crushing your head. I'm crushing your head. If one makes it all the way to SeaTac gets 1/100th of an inch of rain or more, then that's the end of the dry streak. It has to rain at SeaTac Airport because that's the official location. Now, is it possible, say, for Issaquah, North Bend, the far, far fringes of Woodinville, the far eastern fringes of Woodinville, Snohomish, could those, Duval, could these areas see some rain showers or even a thunderstorm? Absolutely. Could something drift all the way to Kirkland? It's possible. Here's the bad news. The Cascade Crest in the eastern side, they need lightning over there like I need another hole in my head. Yeah. So thunderstorms in the Cascades is really bad news, especially because the little bit of rain that will come with whatever thunderstorms bubble up is just not going to produce a lot. And to point out that we are still in this division of two different states, Spokane is under a excessive heat warning. They're going to have 3 days over 100 degrees over there, and they're going to peak out around 105 or 106 again. Oregon, where I'll be on Saturday, and I'm thinking what's going to happen. I think I'm going to go up to the Dixie Fire tomorrow. I think that's my plan. I think I'm going to go to the Dixie Fire tomorrow, find somewhere to stay up on the fringe of that area, and then head up to the fire that's burning in Oregon. I think I've been saying we were going to try and do some forest fire stuff and lack of water stuff. And I think right now that's the plan, because on the way to the Dixie Fire, I'm going to pass Lake Oroville. Lake Oroville is just like it's a mud puddle. It's down so friggin' low. So I'm very concerned about the thunderstorm action that, excuse me, the thunderstorm action that is potentially lining up on Sunday, and the impact along the Cascade Crest, and the potential for producing wildfires both on the western side of the Cascades and additional wildfires on the eastern side of the Cascades. There is nothing in the models right now to show anything like the lightning siege that happened in Canada back, this epic lightning siege that happened where British Columbia over the span of 15 hours got 5% of all the lightning strikes that the entire nation of Canada would typically get in a year. I don't see anything like that in the models. Because we don't have this extreme amount of energy, right? The heat dome situation that we're going to have here in Washington, this is pretty typical late July, early August for us. This is just a real garden variety 90-ish degree heat wave. Anyway, I've kind of talked about my topics here. Peanut butter snatch, a dried mango slice up. Darn you, peanut butter. Joseph, plan is to actually go see Lake Oroville, and that's what I understand, is that like Lake Oroville, it's just, you have to see it to believe it. We have pictures. When I come back from this trip, we have some pictures and video of the situation up at Lake Shasta, and that'll be part of when we do that. I was a huge fan of Kids in the Hall, by the way. I love that song, Peace Train. This is a total hippie song. I'm totally crushed. Yes, Ursinate, you bring up a really good point. I do believe that we are not going right now. If somebody were like, "Where's my money?" My money is we do not set a new dry streak record past 55 days. I do think it will rain at SeaTac Airport sometime next week. There isn't a convincing. First of all, I've said this many times. Get past 5 days in the weather model, you're just throwing darts. So we're talking about throwing darts. When I look at those really long-term weather models, the 6 to 10 day models, I don't put a lot of weight of them. But I do see a fair amount of moisture. But I'm not seeing anything like like it is definitely going to rain moisture where I would like the streak's ending and I'm calling it now. But I wouldn't bet against it. I think it's the best way to put it. And yes, what you're seeing, I'm seeing this too. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Could the dry streak come to an end at that point? Yes. If we get through Sunday without rain, we're at day 48. Monday is day 49. Next Tuesday is 50. We would have to go to Sunday of next week to get to that 55, and then we would have to go to that Monday. That would be the new record. So I think it's going to be really tough because looking at the models right now, I don't think we get through all of next week and don't get rain. But it has to rain at SeaTac Airport. I know it's weird because I've had some people go, it did rain. And I go, yes, I know. We did get like, I do, like for instance, at our weather station, we got 2/100ths of an inch in South Juanita. That's what was in the rain gauge last week when we had kind of the marine layer come in with a little bit of a surprise. It only rained a trace at SeaTac, essentially just enough to kind of make make the bottom of the rain gauge a little moist. That's it, but not anything that was a measurable amount of rain. You need think about how tiny. I'm crushing your head. I'm crushing your head. Think about how tiny 100th of an inch is. That's it's wafer thin. Um, Lollapalooza. Uh, I did see something that I believe it's in Florida. The amount of people who got vaccinations last week versus the week before was up 28%. So there are people that have been on the fence on getting vaccinated. I'm seeing similar comments and people are still talking about vaccinations. There is data that is showing in these states that are getting hit really hard, people that have been on the fence are getting pushed over. Um, I'm really, really sincere on the in particular again the BIPOC, in the BIPOC communities, Pacific Islanders, Indigenous, and Black communities. Please don't buy into the misinformation. Please, please get vaccinated. Please, for your communities. Um, all right. I haven't seen anybody answer the question in the ticker. I don't know. Did I miss your stuff here? The ticker question. Renee, that's basically it. Get off the fence. That's exactly it. Get off the fence and make it happen. Renee's nailed it. Renee, your video is going to air on Monday. Your interview video is going to air on Monday. It's the best I can do because we're traveling. Renee did an amazing interview. We're going to air it on Monday. It's going to be in Renee's SGN, correct? Or is it Unite? Renee, I know you're in the comments, so you can go ahead. Renee, go ahead and promo your story. Renee's going to promo their story. I mean, we have to get it out on Monday because, right, the primaries the primaries on Tuesday. So if we don't get it out on Monday, it's what was the point of doing it? Okay. Oh, here we go. I go to Paris. Shelley would go to Ballycastle in Northern Ireland, SGN. So there, yes. Go ahead. Read Renee's latest story in SGN. How about anybody else here? Mike Lindell's pulling his ads from Fox News. That to me is just like, oh my God. Dora, where in Spain? Spain is a big, beautiful country. I'd go to Switzerland. Is it because they're neutral? I love this story about how there was like this hijack of a plane in the 90s and it was over Switzerland and like people, hey, we need the Swiss Air Force to intercept this plane. I'm sorry, but the Swiss Air Force only operates during normal business hours on weekdays. Wouldn't it be so amazing to live in a world that was like that? I'm sorry, our military only works 40 hours a week. I've never been to Barcelona. I've actually never been to Spain, but I hear amazing things in Barcelona, the Netherlands. Uh, Kimberly, you can go anywhere. I mean, it's Cannon Beach. I get it. I get it. If you love it, I get it. Um, Southeast Asia, another one, Barcelona. Yeah, we talked about that when it happened on the side. He's essentially the co-founder from Turning Point USA and the primary funder, the person that funded Charlie Kirk to create this monster that he created. Has anyone noticed that Charlie Kirk and Mike Solin's podcast style is the same? They talk in this type of voice. They don't talk like Captain Kirk, where they enunciate with the long pauses. They talk in almost a monotone voice with long pauses to get their points across. It's kind of weird. Tijuana's got everything. There's no other reason. Second choice, Bora Bora. All right, so I would go to Antarctica. That's a good answer. I want to go to Antarctica. We would stay. Just a Kiwi gal. If you brought us all to Christchurch, I think we would just say we would. We're political refugees. Have you seen what's going on in the United States? We're political refugees. We want to be in a place where you don't have to wear masks, where people actually care about each other, where I can still buy a Holden rear wheel drive V8 car and drive it. I like my Holden automobiles. I know, I'm sure just the Kiwi gal's going to be like, how the hell do you even know about Holden automobiles? Love Holden automobiles. I love desolation. I love desolate places. I love the desert. I love frozen land. The more desolate, the more I love it. So Antarctica would be amazing to me. I think there is beauty in desolation. I think there is beauty in being in natural places like Dead Flay. When I was in Dead Flay in Namibia, there's just one little thing where there's the tree at the opening, and right at the end where you see the people, kind of the blurry people walking. That's also Dead Flay. So we have Dead Flay at the beginning, at the end. It's probably the most famous place in Namibia, and there was so much life in Namibia, and life in a place where you just couldn't think that life could exist, because we as human beings, on a we were there in the winter, right? It was winter time. Um, if you're there, say we were there. I'm sorry, we were there at the start of the summer. I take that back. We were there at the start of the summer there, and in about another month, um, on a hot day, you're not going to last 24 hours in the Namibian desert, in the Namib Desert, which is in the northwestern part of the state. Or northwestern part of the country, I should say. The Kalahari is also in Namibia. That is in the southeast quadrant, and then you have kind of this little tiny wedge of a sort of fertile area up along the north border. Um, well, Kimberly, that's why I said no consequences. That's what was on there. That's what's on there. No consequences, right? There's no consequences. You don't have to do playing. You just blink your eyes and boom, you're there. That's what I mean. You're like Genie. There. Oh my God, the malcontent's out of the room anymore. I'm not sure where I would go right now. I've always wanted to go to Aruba. You know, if you've seen the Truman Show and the fascination that Truman had with Fiji, that is Aruba for me. I am so because Aruba is essentially a desert, and it gets to this beautiful desolation. It is desert by ocean. I adore desert by ocean. This is why I love Cabo San Lucas. This is why I love, although the Pacific coast of Nicaragua is not a true desert. It's a semi-arid desert, but it has these elements that I really like. I'm told I would adore Israel. My happy ass needs to get to the mother country because it's the same thing. It's this ocean right up against a desert, and I love that. Um, Namibia, ocean right up against the desert. Um, oh, Sweden. Yeah, yeah. Kind of looking for the sheeping when it's raining. Not in Sweden. No. Yerskardy deer, dar yerskardy boar. Ooh, Scotland. You could go look for the Highlander. There can only be one. You can have some haggis. Um, Aruba is. You've been to Aruba? Oh, jelly. I'm super jelly. I have not been to the Rain Shadow Desert in Hawaii, but I hear there is a Rain Shadow Desert in Maine. There's an actual, by the definition, a desert in Maine, and it's a sand dune rain shadow desert that's there. I went helmet diving in Aruba. Just Aruba seems really amazing to me. Let me know when you're all coming. I'll pick you up from the airport. You're gonna have to drive a very large Holden to make that happen. You're not going to be able to pick us in a tradesman truck. No, 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 no tradesman pickup with Holden there. You're going to need a Commodore. You're going to need multiple Statesman wagons. Although I'm a Commodore guy personally, SSV Commodore wagon. I would love that. Um, Actually, New Zealand or Australia would be very, very high on my list if I could go anywhere right now. Another place would be Budapest. My surviving European family. There's no survivors in Hungary. There's nothing. The village is gone. There's from a historical connection standpoint, there is literally nothing for me to go to in Hungary. What the Nazis didn't kill, what the Nazis didn't destroy, the communists did. So there's nothing there. And the place where my grandfather grew up actually isn't, because the borders have moved all over the place. It's actually not in Hungary anymore. It is in, I believe, Serbia, if I have my geography right. Just by maybe about 10 or 15 miles over the border. Used to be in Hungary, it's not anymore. So my surviving relatives are all in the Czech Republic. And so I would probably, again, no circumstance, I'm not worried about COVID, blah, blah, blah. There's no circumstances. I'd probably go to the Czech Republic, go hang with my family, go learn more about my heritage and history because I like that stuff. And by the way, there were a bunch of liberal rabble rousers there in the Czech Republic. My first cousin, who was closest to me in age, is a school teacher. So, oh my goodness, shut up. A 2003 Commodore would just be friggin' amazing. I know that's on the older chassis. It's not on the Zeta. It's not a Zeta platform car, but it's still that. Oh my God, it would just be. I'd just be so goofy about that. Love. I had a Commodore, by the way, just a Kiwi gal. I had a Commodore, and I loved it. I had an SSV Special Edition. Absolutely loved it. It's a story for another time. How it came into my possession, and I sold it in 2018 because I thought a big change was coming up in my life, and I regret selling it. I I wouldn't have sold it. If I didn't know, knew now what I didn't know then, blah 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 blah, I'd have never sold it. I would have held on to it. Oh my God, that car was a blast to drive. And I'm very fortunate I never got in big trouble in that car, never hurt myself in that car, never wrecked that car. And I'm really, really fortunate I never got in big trouble in that car. I could have gotten really, really big trouble in my car. And Dr. Sanchez, if you're watching, yes, this is. We have talked about my thrill issues. This was a vehicle that was producing major thrill issues. Um, Yeah, Rex, and that's very true. It's this is we don't like to teach this in our history classes how our Russian allies in World War II worked with Germany to aid in the invasion of Poland. It's like one of those things. It's like I remember when I was taught about World War II and and how the Germans rolled in September of 1939, starting all of World War II, and it only took 6 weeks. But there was nowhere in that history book where it mentioned that the Russians also invaded at the same time and worked with the Germans to carve up the country because Hitler and Stalin worked together on this. It was never mentioned to me in high school. They are fabulous long car trips. Yeah, for like driving around the traffic, it's painful. Yeah, big planet destroying, gas gulping cars. But on a long drive, they get really good mileage for what they are. If you don't lay into them, they actually get real, and it's just smooth, and it's like, oh, I need to pass this car. And in mine, it's like, oh, I need to pass this car. I have 400 horsepower under my right foot. I am going to pass this car, and there is almost nothing that this car is going to be able to do about it to go, oh no, you're not being. There is no, I'm not passing you games. I am going to pass you if I want to pass you. Um, how noble the Soviet sniper was. um, Yeah, Winston Churchill he definitely, I mean, he was hardcore into the whole British imperialism. This is the thing, we're getting into this whole critical race theory conversation. It's like, it's not about, well, we can't celebrate Winston Churchill. It's not about that. Most historical figures that rise up to a high level of power have very complicated pasts. It's about understanding their pasts. That's all. And understanding what they are. It's about not creating something mythical and just, they're a man. And that's it. I don't like road. Well, Shelley, you would be miserable if you were with me tomorrow. It's Saturday. I'll tell you that. If you don't like road trips, you'd be very. I'm all about the road trips. Um, I love road trips. Anyway, I think we're kind of wrapping this up. It's pretty late at night. Bunch of old school malcontents showed up tonight. I absolutely love it. But I'm calling dibs on the sham marriage for the citizenship. I can't do the sham marriage because I'm married. Um, I know that we're still not. I know for New Zealand demigrate, you got to be 55 and under. Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent are still can still get in. Have transferable skills. Um, Anybody have to ride backwards? I have ridden the back of a Chevy station wagon, but there was no third seat. My father cheaped out on the third seat option, so I just was bouncing around back in the cargo area. Um, guess our engagement's canceled then? I road tripped in a Dodge sports van for six. That sounds epic. Something I've always wanted to do. Oh, now it sounds terrible. With 5 adults, it's like now that sounds just friggin' awful now. Um, Road trip in a Dodge Sports van, great. 6 weeks, amazing. 5 adults, oh fuck that. No. During August in the South, eh. I've hiked in August in the Southwest. Hottest I've ever hiked, 113 degrees. I was out there like a nutcase hiking in that. In 20 years of driving, I don't think I've ever crossed state lines in a car with more than two doors. Longest road trip I ever did, I drove from Houston to Boston nonstop. It was 30 hours door to door. There's no way I could pull that off today. I stopped in Pennsylvania at a truck stop, actually a really nice truck stop, and I got a shower. I went in and I got a shower. I'd never done it before. I just knew you could go to a truck stop to get a shower, and I'm just like, I'm gonna do it, and like no regrets. Oh my God, I'm so glad I did it. They called my number. I went in. It was so friggin' clean. And in this place, the shower was literally set up. The whole thing was set up to look like you were in a house. It was not like an industrial kind of setup. And it smelt super clean. It was really clean. And big ass fluffy towels. And you have all the time you want. And I probably took like a 30-minute hot shower, which in a sense was probably a mistake because then I got back on the road. I drove for maybe 30 more minutes, and then I had to pull over into a rest area, and I napped for about 2 hours. Then I woke up, it was winter. I woke up, it was freezing to death, and I got on the road. But anyway, I drove Houston to Boston, 30 hours. So basically a nonstop drive. Um, see, that's two drivers. But that's a long ass drive, nonstop. That's an epic drive. Broke down in the back alley of the fish market in Ensenada. Oh. Still awful on my back. Um, I when I drive down, I'm essentially doing Seattle Sacramento. When I drive down one day. I don't have it in the tank to drive back in one day. I have to break it up, and it's longer coming back. There seems to be more traffic. It takes like 2 hours. Or 2 hours longer coming back for some reason. And those 2 hours is just the difference. And my daughter and I did this drive. She can't drive. She has epilepsy. My daughter, and she wasn't old enough to drive when we last did this trip. And this was that first trip when we were coming back on one where I was like, I got to break up the return drive. I can't do it. I tapped out in Olympia. It was getting to be about 1 in the morning. We were on the south side of Olympia, and I know it's like you're an hour, and it's like I'm gonna kill us if I keep driving. I'm gonna kill us. And I just told her, I said, Christy, I got to tap out. We got to find a hotel. I'm done. And I just like and I was like, if you were old enough to, we didn't know she had epilepsy. I was like, if you were old enough to drive, it'd be like you take the wheel. It's yours. You're finished and it's up. Anyway, I tapped out in Olympia, and then I've broken up the drive now. And I kind of depends where I stay, right? I kind of, again, tomorrow it'll be the Dixie Fire. I'm going to be somewhere on the edge of the Dixie Fire where I can find a hotel. That's where I'm going to be tomorrow. So I'm not exactly sure, but I'll stay in California. And then, either I'm going to hoof all the way home because that's my 2 or 3 hours, or for the fire in Oregon, if I can get some good shots, or if I can find some way within a safe way to get in a little closer, or in bed with a fire unit, etc. Fire unit's not deep on the line, but hey, we're gonna walk. You want to take some pictures of that? That's great. I'm on board, cool, and I get it. I got my boots, I got my pack, I got my fire coat, I got my helmet, I got my brain bucket. I know what I'm signing up for here, and I know it's miserably hot, and I get I'm responsible for myself. So uh, anyway, if I can do something like that on Saturday, then I will. If not, then I'm just gonna hoof back home. Stop in Roseburg. I haven't stopped in Roseburg in a while. Roseburg, there were when I had little kids, and the kids were little, and I was married to I'm learning things about myself. One day I will have a confession on all of this. I was married to an individual that was not the right person for me to be married to because of the abusive nature of how they acted and how they took advantage of certain things in my nature and some of the conditions I have. And we'll just leave it at that. We would go to Crater Lake, but we would stay in Roseburg because the kids couldn't hack it. My daughter in particular was really small, and that's about all she had for seat time in the car. So we would stay in Roseburg in a hotel, and then we would head out to Crater Lake, and we'd tent camp out there. But anyway, um, and my I think the vehicle at the time I was driving, that's about where the gas would tap out. I can actually get a lot further in the I'm in the same vehicle that I drove during the snowstorm. And I got all the way to Grants Pass, and then I was actually able to get all the way past Sacramento to where I'm staying in the family. Between Sacramento and San Francisco, was able to get all the way down with a quarter tank of gas left. I love that car. It's just a friggin' amazing, amazing, great car. Um, I love Seaside is great. Dr. Mrs. Malcontent hates Seaside. She thinks it's a total tourist trap, blah, blah, blah. I like it. I agree it's kind of a tourist trap. I like the fact that their beach there is off leash. And I have one of my best memories of Yoda. Actually, there's multiple memories. But some of my absolute best memories with Yoda are in Seaside, Oregon. Um, I had Yoda. I had not had him for very long. I had him for about a year. Uh, Yoda, when I got him, would get so scared in the car, he would literally get car sick. He'd throw up, he'd get diarrhea. It was awful. He was terrified in the car when I got him. And so I really worked on conditioning him that no, 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 the car is a good place. And what I started doing was I fed him in the car. Um, and then I moved to starting the car while he was eating, and then I would just drive like just very slowly on our street, and I kept working it up until I could get him in the car, and he would eat, and I would just drive, and then he'd be finished eating, and he would hop back, he'd hop dog, right? Hop up, hop into the passenger seat. Hi, how you doing? Like, what's going on? And he never really relaxed well. But I took him on a trip with me to Seaside, Oregon about a year after I got him. It was just the boys. There's no Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent at the time. There's no kids, just Yoda and I. And, took him to the beach. It was, it's off leash. Wasn't a lot of dogs around, wasn't a lot of people around. I took his leash off, and he just stopped, and he just looked at me with really? Really? And then he just ran. He ran, he ran, he ran, he ran. I have this amazing picture of him, and his face is just full of joy. And he's in full run. He's up, his paws aren't on the ground because he is at full run across the beach. And a lot of shops there are dog friendly. And I bought a shirt for him, and it said security, like a t-shirt that would say security in the back, which of course looks pathetic on a pug. And so he was getting lots of attention in his security shirt as we walked around Seaside, and we went back to the hotel, and he was just he just got in the room and just blacked out. He was so tired. He was so happy. It was a pretty good drive coming. It wasn't great. He had a fair amount of anxiety, but he didn't get car sick or anything. But it's just kind of dude, relax. Just relax, please. He was a little better on the drive back, but the drive down definitely. The thing is, the thing that became a nightmare with him is if he got into stop and go traffic, because when the car stops, then he's like, oh, it's time to get out, and he gets all, where are we at? We're not stopping. Then so stop and go traffic was a nightmare, because you stop and he's like, oh, it's time to get out, and then you move 100 feet and he's like, oh, and then he's like, oh, it's time to get out, and yeah, and then you're dealing with the stop and go traffic. with my personality, and you have a dog that's just crawling out of their skin for 45 minutes. I have long distance hitchhiking stories. Wow. That's bold. That's bold. All right. I need to go to bed. It's time to go to bed. I got a long ass day tomorrow, as everybody knows. Be good to each other. I'll see you. I can't say if there's going to be stream. These areas are kind of remote, not very good, cell coverage. So I don't know. There may be pop-up streams on Friday or Saturday. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So stay tuned. Malcontent out.
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events live as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontents Antifa. Fuck you.
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.